Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Okay, so for today's video, we are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about upgrading a very, very cheap and budget action figure and making it look like a premium collectible. So what we have here is the budget 12-inch scale Master Chief. Let me get the box real quick. So this is put out by Jazzwares. It's the 12-inch Halo action figure. They're, a lot of fans call these toys like shampoo bottles because they're very basic. They're very plain. They're meant for little kids. But my brother took his, sub $10 figure and really upgraded the paint job to make it look like it's simply amazing. And it wasn't very difficult from watching him undergo that, the simple process of adding all this like shading and surface detail. So this is the end result of what the figure looks like now. And here is the figure as it started off. So, not that it was, a bad figure, but as you can see here, the paint on this guy, it's very bare minimum. Despite the fact that they added some battle damage and a little bit of weathering and some battle scarring, it's very, very minimal. More so of this guy, the paint application is very dependent on just like, making sure all the black and greens are in the right place. And it looks all right. It's very passable. It's decent. But then when you compare it to something like this, it's on a completely different level. My brother brought out all this crazy surface details and panel lines and, all the little tiny rivets and vents. And if you saw this figure in person, it's like, it looks crazy. It's at the level of like, some of the older figures that you might have seen during the 90s when a lot of action figures had like excessive washes. Like the surface area here, he brought out all the surface detail and it just looks amazing. It kind of got rid of this like somewhat plastic sheen and it brought it to like a little bit slightly more matte finish. But the detail is just, it's just crazy, The simple addition of like this adding black panel lines, really brings out the detail. It's something that's done, common enough like with Gundam modelers. Like, so for people that are into Gunpla and assembling Gundam models, they make special markers that you can use to like get in the crevices and really bring out all the surface detail. Even with the gun, here's the stock gun. As you can see, it's a very plain looking silver looking plastic. But then, adding a little bit of black and shading and, just doing it just right, it really brings it to life. Here's a side-by-side comparison to give you a better idea. On this one, it looks so void of detail. But then, with the right amount of work to it, it makes it look worn. You can see all the tiny little crevices. It even kind of looks a little bit like burnt in certain areas. And all this additional detail, it really, really just brings the character to life. It looks like this guy's actually been on the battlefield. Versus this one. So what my brother did was he was using, so he kind of explained it to me. He was using Gundam markers, and when I would observe him doing this process, he would take the markers and like cover an area completely in black, and then I think he would let the marker dry overnight. I don't know the process completely, and then after he'd let the marker dry, he would take a rubber eraser and he would just start erasing all the excess black. So the parts on the model where the eraser can't reach, it kind of leaves that like black residue, and so that would provide detail for all the panel lines and all the vents and all the rivets, because the eraser it can't reach down into those tiny spots. so then the black ink would remain in those areas. So it's essentially almost like an ink wash, if you're familiar with that term and that process, and like customizing toys or like painting up model kits. And right here on the gun, you can really see that technique being put to use. It really brings out the detail on the rifle, where versus the original one right there, where it's just so plain. It looks like a toy. Not that this elevates it to like hyper realism, but it just looks a lot better. It has somewhat of a more professional quality look to it, and like I said, this looks a little bit more premium. It just looks awesome seeing Master Chief kind of like battle scarred and battle damaged, and having his armor being really weathered down. I loved the stock figure to begin with, but there's just something about going that extra mile and bringing out all the details. And let's get these guys in similar poses so we can do a better comparison. Alright, so there you go. Yeah, so the difference is like night and day. Let's get that. Yeah, so if you look at that, this one looks so much cooler than this one. Yeah, so it was a simple process. You just cover it with a black Gundam marker and then let it sit overnight, and then you just start erasing away. And all the marker that was left is the stuff that you want. It goes into all the little tiny details and crevices. You see, big difference between the armor. The one on the right looks a lot cooler than this one. Likewise with the helmet, the one here, it looks so much better with all the extra detail. So yeah, here's the stock figure. Again, I love this figure. I think it's fantastic, especially for like a sub $10 figure, and it's like a little bit under 12 inches. It's an awesome rendition of Master Chief. It's pretty true to form, but just giving it a little bit more detail really brings it to life, as you can see right there. So these 12-inch figures, I say this all the time, there's something that you shouldn't sleep on. There is value to be found in these. For one, they're very affordable. This guy comes in at under $10. He's 12 inches. And all it took was a marker and an eraser. And then you get, the finished product looking like this. It looks amazing. Just look at the detail on the rifle and the armor. God, you'd be hard pressed to think that this was like maybe like an $8 or $9 figure. Look at all the surface detail on his backpack. It looks great. Compared to the stock one here, it's very void of detail, very plain. But then, the simple addition of adding a little bit of marker to it, it just looks fantastic. Alright, so with that being said, I want to thank my brother for allowing me to showcase this figure. I think he did a fantastic job on it. My brother Richie, he's an artist, works in the world of video games, and he dabbles in drawing sometimes and stuff like this. He's been experimenting a little with 3D printing, so I'm hoping that in the future I can employ his talents and maybe we could do some cool 3D action figure stuff. But yeah, this figure looks fantastic. He did such an amazing job on it. I kind of want to do some still photography with this. It's such a beautiful piece. And the fact that this was like a sub $10 figure, it's crazy. I mean, just look at that. Alright, with that being said, once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will see you at the next one. Alright, later.